Do you know what time it is?
F-U-L-L-O-U-D. We got control, we got the right, we got the vision, you lose the sight. We will never stop. What? We got the drop, yeah.
What time is it? Full. We're live in 5, 6, 7, 8. Hello, and with the music, that means we are live here on Full Out Chats Coach's Corner. I am your host and the head cheerleading coach and also the mascot coordinator at Purdue University. I'm Steve Solberg, and we have a special edition of Coach's Corner for you today. We are going to go off the wall. We are going to probably go crazy. I'm excited to see the type of comments we get. The last time I interviewed somebody with mascot background, it was the most fun I've had in an interview just because of the comments alone. So I encourage anybody who's watching, please leave some fun comments or questions for these people. It'll be a lot of fun. But we are going into the world of college mascots tonight here on Full Out Chats. Have some great people who are in charge of some of the most iconic mascots in the country. Very highly competitive programs. These mascots you see everywhere. You see them at games, obviously, many events, national television appearances, bowl games, and then again at UCA College Nationals, where actually all of them have won at UCA Nationals, and super excited to talk about that. But I think we're going to have a great panel here to talk about the current state of college mascotting, kind of different areas, different views, obviously different schools. We have obviously we have Big Ten here, but also we have Colorado, and then we also have Division I with Delaware here. So we're just super excited to bring in my friends and coaches here to talk about college mascotting. So let's bring them in and let's get started. First, have Kirby Lynch. Kirby, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And then also we have Michael Kussin from Colorado. Chip the Buffalo. How are you, Michael?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it. And then from the Ohio State University, Ray Sharp. Ray, how are you, man?
Doing well. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good. Good, my friend. And from Minnesota, Goldy the Gopher, Tom Steiner. Tom, how are you?
Hey, doing good. Yourself?
Good. And the final piece of the puzzle, good friend of mine. I've known this guy for many years. He was Bucky Badger back in the day when I was at Wisconsin as a cheerleader, and now helping out at The Ohio State, Timmy Thiel. Tim, how are you, buddy?
Good.
I can't hear you. Can you speak up? Well, Tim, thanks for being here. Everybody, I was super excited for this episode. I thought I had talked to Ray during his full out chat about, man, we're definitely gonna do a mascot coach's corner, and so really happy that it worked out, and glad to have people joining us here tonight. And kind of the first thing that I wanted to get to is just kind of the state of each program right now. Obviously we're all over the country, different schools with different kind of prerogatives and different rules right now. News from NCAA allowing football and basketball back on a voluntary basis starting here in a few weeks. So hopefully that opens up the door. But obviously the big thing over the summer for our mascots is events. A lot of events they usually do, community service stuff they do, a lot of great video that usually we could get for nationals that just isn't available probably this year. So kind of interested to hear from each of you in regards to what is state of your program right now and mascots and everything like that. So let's start with Tom at Minnesota. Tom.
Yeah. So I mean, with the whole COVID situations, really, for that spring semester, really kind of threw us through a whole entire loop. Not being able to have tryouts, and then for the senior guys leaving, they didn't really get a chance to kind of say goodbye to the program. So that spring really kind of affected us. It was kind of just like we had to go along with it. So other than that, though, it's with the summer going on, we're kind of, for a lot of programs, it's the most relaxed part, appearances here and there. But I mean, as mascots, we always go with the flow. You're never really given a true direction. You show up to an appearance and you just got to turn it on. So we're doing okay. And just making our way through the water,
Michael, what about you guys over in Colorado?
Yeah, it's been kind of weird since like all the same stuff. We didn't really have a true ending to our year, and we haven't been able to have a true beginning to our next year, because this is usually the time that we would have had tryouts, and then all through summer, our summer events are when we kind of train our new guys. And there hasn't been any of that time. And with campus restrictions, it's been kind of tough to even get parts out to anyone, anywhere. But we've been trying to focus on shifting while the times shift and making a virtual appearance platform, seeing what kind of parades we can do where we're not near anyone else, and just really trying to figure it out on the fly.
Kirby, what about at Delaware? I know Youdee makes usually a lot of appearances and stuff during this time. So kind of what's your process been with Youdee so far with the whole pandemic?
Yeah, right before the pandemic started, we usually have a bunch of interest meetings before we go into tryouts for the team. Obviously, we couldn't do that this year. So we started reaching out on social media and have held a few interest meetings via Zoom. And then I've had a couple Zoom meetings with interested candidates just so we can kind of show them the ropes of what's going on. Our biggest event and the kickoff for the new season is usually our alumni weekend, the first week of June. Obviously, that's not happening this year. So we're going to rely on Zoom, and then we're trying to get into some more FaceTimes and videos for Youdee so we can stay engaged.
And Ray, what about at Ohio State with Brutus?
Very similar to what everyone said here. The restrictions which are here for, the player safety, the people that we interact with, all of their safety, those are in place in Ohio. And so it has been quite difficult for us to do what we normally do. But just as the others said, trying to build that digital platform and creatively engage is one of our primary focuses. We're pretty lucky because the core of our team is returning. And so it's been less about, bringing people up to speed and more about just progressing them on what they're currently doing. And we've had some creative moments this year, but we're excited to get back out there.
And also I want to thank you, Ray, for the bird sound effects in the background to give the ambience a better feel. I appreciate that, buddy.
Trying to keep it home.
Timmy, anything to add about that from Ohio State?
No, can you hear me any better though?
Yeah, that's actually a lot better.
There you go, fixed it.
Finally.
No, like Ray said, we're trying to keep ourselves engaged, keep our audience engaged, stay relevant, and we're pushing our guys in ways that we didn't think of before. We're trying to be creative in ways that make sense for the time being right now, and we're not the only ones in that too. Still very close with the team in Wisconsin, and they're trying to figure out how to stay busy and relevant, and we're all in the same boats. But it's kind of interesting that we're pushing each other, everyone on this call, kind of taking advice from each other and seeing how we can raise it.
I think Ray, you touched on it, almost all of you touched on it a little bit. I agree. Like what I've learned through this whole thing is, which is crazy when you think about it, considering the times that we live in, just actually using the digital platform more, if possible, whether that's obviously through team meetings and stuff, but we're doing some, like, for some of our sponsors, they've asked, could Purdue Pete do some things at home or do a PSA or things like that? And I think that not only us, but I think other businesses are going to be thinking about ways to maybe use our mascots more digitally or more on social or things like that. Kind of making things more at home or giving it that at home feel. I mean, anybody want to chime in? Have you seen an increase on that from anybody?
Yeah, I can definitely talk to that a little bit. We definitely have an uptick in virtual stuff that's coming through. We had, my favorite one so far has been UC Health wanted to do a howling video at 8 p.m. or something like that. Everyone in Denver howls for the first line workers and whatnot. And so they wanted to have all of the Colorado mascots howl out their window. And the script for it was going to be like videos of each mascot pretending they're howling. And then they were going to put in the sound of the actual animal. So like Rocky was going to be like a wildcat screeching, and then Bernie was going to be like dog howling. And then it got to Chip, and I was like, do you guys know what a buffalo sounds like? So that was fun. That one got the can, but then we've been doing other fun stuff. Like all of our kids club members have been getting custom videos for their birthday from Chip. We stole that from Minnesota. Oh. Thanks, Tom.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
So just a bunch of different stuff like that where we can still stay engaged. We got a couple like 5Ks reach out. Can you do a video of Chip stretching that we can put out to warm up our virtual 5K? So a lot of people are getting creative with it.
Tom, do you have anything from Minnesota? You guys have been, obviously Chip has already stole some stuff from you guys, which is fine. But anything else that Minnesota's been doing in regards to digital?
Well, I mean, basically we've tried to, the biggest change that we've done is with our social media. It's kind of been putting out content to kind of make people laugh or like kind of giggle, to transitioning into more content that's interactive, that actually engages the audience with us. And one of the ideas that my guys had, which was really cool, was to have a kind of Goldy draw off where we kind of put it off. We're like, I mean, put it out like this is an annual draw me and like kind of draw me like your French girl, something like that. And so we actually had a lot of kids and even some college students and some parents draw pictures of Goldy. And so sent them in over Instagram, Twitter. And, you know, we chose the winners, typically, you know, the younger kids, because they're the ones that are really, they love the mascots. They're the ones that really kind of deserve it. So yeah, that was another just way to interact. So we're still just trying to figure out different ways to kind of come up with that content and not beat people over the head with it of like every day, like, oh, we have this now, we have this. It's just kind of trying that fine line between putting too much out there or just enough. So it's, and just try and like find creative ways to engage with people that people haven't done before. But it definitely takes a lot more coordinating when you have to do a lot of these meeting stuff over, I mean, especially with the goalie team over GroupMe or Zoom calls. It's just, you have the ideas, but then trying to act upon it, it's a little hard when you're not all together, kind of really hyping everybody on. So that's kind of our how we've been approaching the social media aspect and interactions.
I was going to ask you, Tom, do your Goldies actually run the account, or do you guys kind of share it? Or I kind of want to ask everybody that about, you know, who runs your accounts real quick. So Tom.
So Goldy does run his own accounts. I do have access to it, but it's Goldy. Goldy kind of puts it whatever he wants out there. Like I definitely have a little bit of an oversight. I make sure that they don't post something that Goldy wouldn't say or anything like that. But other than that, they kind of have free reign. It's Goldy is them, so they're the ones that really need to be that voice to really kind of bring the character to life and everything. So that's kind of on their responsibility, which is nice for our program, especially because they can really take a hold of it, the responsibility of it, and really kind of put as much as they want into it.
Timmy, at Ohio State, I know you guys have the Brutus Brigade, and then obviously you have Brutus also. So kind of how do you guys handle the social media for Brutus at Ohio State?
Yeah, we split our platforms. We work closely with the athletic department. We have a media team there that helps guides us through different platforms. Ray, correct me if I'm wrong here. They work with the Twitter and Facebook and our TikTok account. And then our Brutus Brigade works with our YouTube and Instagram feeds.
Yeah, and just adding on to that, I mean, you know, athletics is more of the actual, you know, voice of Brutus. So a lot of the direct interactions of Brutus, you know, with the audience, you'll see a lot of that posted through the athletic websites. And then when it came to the Brutus Brigade, we actually, you know, formed a student organization where we were kind of aiming to look more at the story behind, you know, Brutus and everything that he does. So we try to focus more on features, you know, some of our seniors, some of the student organizations that work with Brutus, we really try to take that viewpoint for it. So kind of split there.
So I just want to say that we are 14 minutes into the Mascot Coaches Corner, and I've had more comments made already than episode. Because, you know, apparently to Patrick, Brutus is the king of TikTok. And that means, I mean, okay. I mean, that's big time right there if you're being called the king of TikTok for Brutus. But, you know, Brittany's showing love for Goldy. You know, I mean, we got some fans here. But, you know, I mean, you know, Ryan just loves Kirby, and just give him the shout out to Kirby because, you got to. I mean, this is great. This is exactly how it's got to go. So,
wow, cool, Ryan. Thanks. Yeah, it's not like
Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, Michael, don't feel bad. There you go. Sean Jones says, "Go Kussin." There you go. So
You'll notice he shouted out Ray before me, though.
And then, of course, I had to get something about Purdue Pete on here, and so heard Pete is 6'4", 245. Ain't that big? I hope so.
I believe that.
Absolutely. I mean, there was only one Pete. They're all 6'4", 245. So that's obviously. So Michael, in terms of at Colorado, who helps run Chip's social medias?
Yeah, our social media is 100% run by the students that work with Chip. Chip obviously has the most influence on it, but he's got hooves, so he can't actually type. So it goes to the students that work with him.
Good point.
And I will say we have a little bit of an umbrella from athletics that watches everything that we put on social media, and sometimes they're not as happy with it as we want them to be. So sometimes there's a little intervention that happens, but for the most part, it's the guys that work with Chip, and they try and keep it as fun and creative as possible. Because at the end of the day, your social media platform is really just an electronic version of who your character is. When you go and see Chip in the community, it should be the same Chip that you see on the internet. Should be the same Chip that you see on the sidelines of the football game. So the people that work with Chip day in and day out know him the best and know how to put his voice out there for everyone.
And Kirby at Delaware, who runs social media?
Yeah, well, kind of going off of what Michael said, Youdee has a hard time typing with wings. So a lot of times, like, Youdee will give the ideas and then I'll help put them into social media so that can be heard around the university.
I love that, the consistency in terms of, the mascot has a voice. This is the mascot's voice, and it can be the voice, for the mascot, because ultimately they don't. And I think that's social media has changed that in a way that I think has been really positive. It's really, I love Tom's idea at Minnesota in regards to birthday shout outs, and then, Michael stealing his ideas with, other stuff. And that's great, and that's what we got to do. I think that the mascots have a really good connection into really reaching out, especially to kids. And I think I know we've used Pete a ton for a Bullemicker Kids Club, and anything with Pete, they love. I mean, they just eat that up. They absolutely love it. Mm-hmm. But I did want to ask Kirby one quick question, because I find this really interesting for Kirby is, Kirby's background is cheerleading. Like me, she's known as a cheerleader. She was a very good cheerleader at Indiana University. But what's really interesting about Kirby, though, is Kirby, you went to a school that doesn't have a mascot. So you didn't have any interaction with college mascots while you're in college in Delaware, and now you're running a mascot program. Kind of talk about how was that for you, getting to Delaware and all of a sudden you have to learn about all these mascotting and the rules and everything.
Yeah, it was definitely different. And it was kind of funny. It's funny that you mentioned that, because just like you said, at IU, they don't have a real live mascot. But the cheerleaders were always sent to all of the mascot events. So a lot of Big Ten events, it was all of the mascots and the IU cheerleaders, or, what have you. And we did a lot of appearances that I think mascots would usually go to. So it was kind of cool just because I have that perspective from the cheer side and from the mascot side of what the mascot and what Youdee and Baby Blue want to come across as. And it's been cool to kind of blend mascots more with cheer as well, since I work with both cheer and mascot at Youdee.
For Ray, kind of, how was the transition going, into the coach's role, into, now you're seeing things from a different side, different perspective, obviously you're now working with directly your athletics department. Kind of talk about that, the transition of going into that coach's role for you, and what that means to a collegiate program.
Sure. No, the transition was it was a good transition overall. Looking back on it, it was very different from a culture perspective. Coming from a time where I, was a part of the students that brought Brutus to life, and that perspective. The decisions that we made. What was a quote unquote good idea and what wasn't. that perspective shifted, just because now you're responsible for all the young adults that help out with the program. And so, definitely had to learn a lot about different things that you can and cannot do. I had to gain an understanding of, really what was the role of a mascot, to our program, to Ohio State as a university and the athletics program. So it took some time. There were definitely some growing pains, but going on year 5, year 6 now, definitely fallen into a groove. And what's been nice is being able to kind of learn from other programs and understand, how their roles shift if they're maybe under, the Alumni Association or under student life, understanding how they're viewed and how you get the most out of the program from that sense. And I think one of the coolest things about being a coach is the ability to create, those connections with the different parts of your university and really just, maximize arguably the university's #1 ambassador, right? It is literally the physical embodiment of the school. And so being able to leverage that as effectively as possible, you see programs like this on this chat, you see, the BYUs of the world, the Oregons, like they have the ability to bring eyes and bring attention to the program, understanding how to do that in a positive manner. That's probably been one of the hardest things to learn, but the most beneficial ones.
So as I'm looking through kind of the comments here from both our YouTube and Facebook page, and everybody, thank you very much for either the humorous, the great comments, or a couple of really good questions that has come up. And let's get into this subject because I know it's something that we wanted to talk about. This is from Grant. I'm a college mascot. Are any of your programs, I'm guessing you meant programs, sending mascots to camp this summer? And then follow up from James, yes, even with social distancing, like how could camp work? So kind of, let's talk about that real quick in regards to summer camp. For those of you that have never been to a college summer camp, it's, if you go to Chula Vista, especially if you go to Chula Vista, and I've actually been to Bama camp before, and Bama's another good camp, the mascots really bring a different element to those camps because the groups are so big and so talented. It's a lot of fun. And camp is always, in my opinion, just really a great time to see if your rookies have the teeth to cut it. Camp can be long, it's grueling, it's tedious, doing a lot of nitpicking. Don't get me wrong, having a lot of fun. Really getting to meet other people from other schools. Chula Vista has always been a great one because most of the Big Ten is there. Chip is there. Aubie has been coming up to it lately. It's been a lot of fun and seeing all those great programs. In Washington, just people from all over because it really is a premier mascot camp. I know for Purdue, there's just no way, even if they have Chula Vista in August, that they would let us travel. There's just no way. That was our plan, was to send Pete to Chula Vista this year, but that's just not going to happen. Whether or not we do a camp, I don't know. But I know that's our stance. If there's maybe a later camp or something, I don't know. But I know for us, that's definitely going to be our stance on that. So Tom, what about Goldy at Minnesota?
Currently it's still up in the air. With the current COVID situation, it's you plan on it, but you have to also have kind of a plan B. Just in case it doesn't happen. And also you just have to follow what the legislators are putting out, our university president, you have to follow those. But camp, I love camp for those first years, for the people that go there for the first year. It's definitely, like you said, it's chopping block. You get kind of just dive off the deep end into this mascotting world. And so you really put to the test, but then especially for those second, third, and fourth years, it's a huge social, kind of a social networking event because a lot of the times, hopefully this year, if football season goes, mascots travel with the football programs. And so it's really good to kind of have, especially with the Big Ten, you're able to know the people who are behind those programs when you're going to those football games. So it just really creates a lot of good communication that then in the end just elevates the performance of both mascots, especially in front of the crowd. So right now, planning on it, but like a lot of things, it's just up in the air.
Michael, what about Chip at Colorado?
So we've made the decision not to travel to camp this year, but that doesn't mean that we won't be getting a camp experience. Obviously, one of the biggest things of going to camp and being thrown into this trial by fire learning experience, it's very helpful for the rookies on your team, because at the end of the day, they come in kind of not knowing what it is at all. Some have a lot of experience, some have no experience. And so it's a great time for them to learn. But without us having to hold tryouts, or without being able to hold tryouts this year, it hasn't posed that much of an issue for us, because I personally have now been to camp 3 times as a student and 2 times as a coach. And I'm confident that I could teach the same classes that the UCA staff does. I don't think I could teach it as well as they do, but I know the material that's covered. My team knows the material that's covered. So the biggest thing that we're focusing on is team bonding and getting ready for the year. And this is a really good time for us. Like camp, you are together from the time you wake up to the time you fall asleep. And you get so much team bonding and so many ideas fly through the room. And whether it's skit ideas for games, video ideas for social media, whatever it is, that's like a very crucial time for that. And your whole team gets to bond together. And we're lucky this year. The last couple of years, our cheer and dance teams didn't travel to Chula with us. And so we kind of lost out on that one team, one dream aspect of the Spirit program as a whole. But now we're getting to host a home camp for all of our teams together. And we're going to be able to do more of those commingling exercises. And I think it's going to be big for kind of get that team camaraderie back and have Colorado as a whole together for moving forward for whatever this season looks like. And I think that we're making the best of a situation that obviously we want to be at Chula Vista. We have a ton of fun there, but this is definitely the best plan B that we could come up with.
Kirby, what about Youdee and
kind of the same thing right now. We're still waiting to hear back on if we'll be able to travel. We have some backup plans just in case. Prior to all of this starting, we were fundraising so that we could go to Chula, just because there are so many other mascot teams that go there, and we have a lot of new mascot team members that we wanted to kind of get them in front of all of those programs, and they've never been to camp. So we're definitely going to do something for our new members. Just not sure what that's going to look like yet.
I think that, obviously our priority as coaches are going to be just the safety. And as we've, I think, quickly learned as coaches and learning about our departments is, it's such a fluid thing. We just don't know what the heck's going on. Literally things could change tomorrow. I don't know. Or things could get better tomorrow, or things could get worse tomorrow. We had actually a department meeting here, Zoom meeting this week, and basically it was the same thing. It was, and I will say Purdue's stance, which I appreciate, is our president has made some news lately about basically being one of the first presidents to say, like, we're bringing students back this fall. It's happening. And so we haven't made drastic decisions or anything like that until we have more information. But the information just changes all the time, and I think that with the COVID situation, it's going to, I've warned my program cheerleaders and mascots that this football season is just going to be different. It's just going to be very different. It's going to be nothing like we've ever experienced. Hopefully hopefully it's fun and still great, but this football season will not be like any other football season, I saw a couple of comments, a couple of questions. One of the questions was just, if there's no fans, will there be mascots? Again, I don't know. A mascot's wearing a mask technically, right? But, is that mascot essential? Does it have to be out there? And I don't know. And that's the question, and the funny and the crazy thing is, I know that's stuff the NCAA is actually talking about. Our band's essential, our cheerleaders essential, our dancers essential, our mascots essential. And, there's just still a lot of questions that we're still waiting answers on. I really do think that the month of June is going to be a huge month. And I think that hopefully these voluntary workouts go well. And as long as, people are safe and we're not getting spikes in the COVID numbers, hopefully things get better and we can at least do 1/3 or 1/2 capacity at games and go from there. But I think that would be really awesome. I did see a really good question here, which I didn't even think about, but let's pull it up from Philip. With programs that have multiple costumes and heads to wear, how do you plan to keep things sanitary? That's a great question. Are there any extra procedures or policies that you foresee going into this year, no matter what that you're going to do to keep your mascot safe? Tim, you want to take that one first? Timmy Thiel?
Yeah, I'm going to steal something Ray talked about the other night, actually, about, we talked about disinfecting our heads, how, like that's the one thing. Everything else you can clean, right? But the heads, most of us, there's nothing we can do. So taking, looking into what they're doing for PPE for at hospitals with face masks, like something along that line that we could utilize after events. But what does that look like too? And, we're thinking about, our mascots technically are wearing gloves as it is, but, we have to think about our approach at events. Like, can we be out there high-fiving? Are we going to be out there hugging or, interacting? We kind of have to change the whole scope of how we look at events and interact at events. So there's going to be some, practices that go into place with our athletes on limitations of how they interact. And it may be an in-person situation, but we're going to have to think of distancing, physical distancing, what that looks like. So, I mean, there's a number of things that are out there that we will take lead from, that are in place from our states, from our institutions, but it's a long list right now, and it's convoluted. Like we're saying, it's ever changing every day, and so we're trying to be fluid with it. But it's hard to be in front of it, but also into it, because we're not into it, and it may change tomorrow. So we're discussing things, but again, we're in a limbo with what universities are trying to figure out, what the Big Ten's trying to figure out with NCAA. There's a number of factors that go into it, and we're trying to look at all angles.
Michael, at Colorado, has there been any, plans or procedures put in place in regards to trying to keep and any types of cleaning or anything like that you're gonna have to do extra?
So we already had pretty strict cleaning regimens for all of our gear. We did write out a list of some more serious stuff that we're gonna have to implement come the fall. The biggest thing right now is we're actually not going out into the community until students are back on campus taking classes in person, kind of the same rule-ish that they've been trying to follow for sports coming back as well on college campuses. But when it comes to sanitation, one suit, one person, there's only one chip. There's not even a suit, so it makes it easy there. But we use a ton of different supplies that clean very well. We have this Pure Green 24 disinfectant spray that's hospital grade disinfectant. And so we scrub that all the time through the inside of the heads. We utilize UV lights a ton, which kill everything pretty quickly. After any appearance, everything goes straight into this thing called a rocket locker, where you zip it up, turn it on, and it's this heater that dries everything and then has a UV light cycle that kills anything that's left in there, including odor. So if anyone out there's got smelly stuff, there you go. But just a ton of different stuff like that, because at the end of the day, you have to do your best to protect you and your performers, because once a mascot goes out there, their social distancing goes out the window. I work closely with Bernie of the Colorado Avalanche, and I know that they've been doing some stuff through the KSE charities of giving meals to frontline workers and such. And he told me even the doctors will run up and immediately give Bernie a hug. So you really just have to do as much as possible to prevent things on the front end, because you're going to run into situations that you just can't avoid because of the nature of what we do.
And Kirby, at Delaware, anything been brought up in regards to trying to keep all costumes and everything like that sanitary going into next year?
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to look at that a little bit closer this year and after everything's gone on. One thing that our spirit coordinator did for Youdee and Baby Blue during this time was get them their own personalized face masks. So shout out to Martha Hall at Youdee. She made face masks for Youdee, and he was able to deliver some Chick-fil-A to a hospital. But we'll definitely have to look at that and see maybe less people switching in and out until we can find the right way to sanitize everything.
Now, a really good question that was brought up by Natalie here is, what's the most important element to winning a national title? And man, we have some great coaches to ask that. That's awesome. We have Michael here, they are the reigning D1A Mascot National Champions. And so I do have a little bit of footage actually from their national championship performance that I'd love to show and make sure. So for those of you that have never seen a mascot routine before, what is nationals? Kind of gives you a little bit of so that kind of gives you an idea of like they're putting together these props, putting together this story that they're trying to tell, and there's also the crowd score that's part of it. So, Michael, we'll start with you. It was your routine. We showed there a little bit. First of all, congratulations on your national championship. How many is that now for Chip?
Thank you. That's our third championship now. We've got 2009, 2010, and 2020.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again, and kind of talk about kind of what we saw. Okay, so kind of talk about that part of the Nationals process in regards to putting together the skit with the props and everything.
Yeah, so the skit is half of your score. The other half, I'm sure we'll talk about later, but it's a 90-second skit performed to props and audio. And beyond that, I'm not sure I could really explain it very well to anybody because I don't totally understand it, but we seem to have developed a formula that's been working for us out here. Essentially, you're limited now, thanks to some rule changes, you're limited to 7 props. Nothing can go beyond 3 feet at any point. So you have to get really creative with the way that props work. You'll notice even just in that opening skit there, or opening clip of the skit, there were a bunch of different layers of stuff. So you try and have fake fronts that can fall out so that you can be as creative as possible. And you always want to make sure that props don't do only one thing. That's where the creativity really comes into play. So you wanted to do as many different things as possible. Like that spatula you saw in the opening scene there, it was used as a spatula, and then it was a stop, drop, and roll prompt with a sign. And then it turned into a wrench that moved into the next thing. So it's all about how creative can you be in utilizing as much as possible. And we've kind of tried to break the mold as much as we can in the recent years. I'd say probably the last 3 years, we've broken the mold as much as I've seen in the last 10 years out of us. Nationals is kind of formulaic at a certain point, but mascots don't want to be formulaic. We're creative by nature. We want to break the rules. We want to figure out the next new thing. We want to be better than we were last year in a more creative, more funny, more entertaining way. And so we've tried to do our best of evaluating last year's skits and everyone else's skits and seeing how can we push it. Because it kind of got to a point where it was like, all right, here come the mascots. In 90 seconds, we're going to see a slow clap. We're going to see a sing along. We're going to see I Heart, cheer, dance. So if you're going to plug in all of these elements, you need to find some way to make it creative outside of that. So we kind of started with coming up with themes as opposed to storytelling necessarily of the classic like categories. And off our themes, we noticed that we started getting really creative. Like last year, our theme was pop. And so opening scene, you could tell like it was Chip's Candy Shop, but then there was also a Bop It, there was Pop Lock and Drop It, there were Pop Tarts. So pop ran through the whole thing. And then the skit from this year, you could see the theme was grease, but we didn't just stick to one kind of grease. We went from like fry cook grease to grease lightning to grease like the actual place, and we were Zeus at the end there with a thunderclap. And it was, you have to try and break the mold and be creative, because at the end of the day, creativity is one of the highest scoring categories. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there are 5 different categories that range from being weighted 10 points to 15 points. And you know that you have to hit those 15-point categories as hard as possible, because any point that you lose out on, you're probably dropping down. They always tell us, like, when we come in and we're like, oh, I can't believe we qualified 6th this year. They're like, oh, don't worry, 1st through 10th are within a half a point. And like, it's kind of something that you're like, yeah, right, whatever. But also at the end of the day, the top teams, whether the top teams are 1 through 10, 1 through 2, or 1 through 5, whatever it is, they truly are that close. And you need to do your best to max out all those point categories.
Ray, in regards to, Brutus won in 2019, and Brutus has won multiple national championships also. Kind of talk about the other half of that score sheet, which is the video. 50 points. It's where the rankings come from. It's where the paid bids come from. Talk about what goes into taping and everything that Brutus does to get ready for the tape for nationals.
Sure. So as you had mentioned, it is half of the score. It is the portion of nationals that kind of dictates whether or not you are going to even get down to Disney. Top 10 mascots get to go, and the purpose of it is to provide really, a snapshot, of your season and how your mascot interacts with its community and the different elements of its community, and kind of show that all in like a 2-minute clip, right? And so typically what that means is, every event that we go to, whether it's a community-based event or an athletics-based event, birthday parties, mitzvahs, you name it, we're filming. All right. We are trying to capture footage that we can look at throughout the year and put together into this, creative highlight video. And again, the ultimate goal is to kind of, we want to illustrate to whoever's watching it, specifically the judges, but then anybody that watches it after, why he's worthy of going and competing at a national championship level. What makes your mascot so great is the question that we're trying to answer with it. And as far as what goes into it for us, as I had mentioned before, we're talking about, hours and hours of footage capture. We're constantly evaluating it on a weekly basis. We're evaluating the performance at these events. We want to make sure that what we're capturing is authentic and natural, but it's also it speaks to the creativity and the true nature of your mascot. Is Brutus's character coming out of the clip? Is this how Brutus Buckeye, would bake a cake or, flip a burger, right? Like, I mean, you're really trying to get the essence of your mascot in this. And so it is a lot. It's a lot of work. People don't realize how much time and effort and, sometimes tears go into putting this together. And it is really, really hard to capture what we're trying to capture all in, a 2-minute time span. Right. And so, it truly is a feat. If you ever have a chance, go to YouTube and just type in UCA Mascot Nationals entry videos, and you would be shocked. You would be amazed at, the quality of these videos, the creativity in these videos, and really where all these mascots are, right? Like all these different places that they perform at. I think one of my favorite clips I've ever seen was Goldy. And I think he was performing at the Guten Tag or something like that. But yeah, Tom, you know what I'm talking about. But basically, like Goldy was up in a pyramid on top of like several other individuals, just water skiing. And I'm just like, holy crap, like, that's awesome. And then, as a coach for our teams, we're just like, how do we top that? Right? How do we top that? Or how do we take what we're seeing and spin it? And so the bar is constantly being raised from a creativity standpoint. And it's a fun process. It's time consuming, but it's fun.
Tom, Minnesota, another great program with great traditions. And Goldy also has won multiple national championships, and you've been on both sides of that. And so, kind of talk about the preparation for nationals, and and Ray's touched on it, but just what goes into getting ready for nationals.
It's a whole ordeal. We came up with just ABR, always be recording, literally film everything and anything. You think it might be a good clip, you just always have that camera rolling. You can always edit it later when it's late at night, you're trying to procrastinate on something. It's just, you go through hours and hours of film just to get those perfect clips. And then when you have kind of a library of clips and you're just like scrolling through them all. And like what was Ray was saying, like what videos really capture the mascot, like what really brings out the character. Shows the best, And so, once that video goes, it's about like 4 days of just heart wrenching. You just can't wait to hear like that call or when the results come out. And then right when those results come out, it's game time. We meet up with have our team meetings. We throw out a lot of themes, kind of figure out what are we going to do. What we've done, we always have a theme, and we like telling a story. We think telling a story is just a really good way to kind of incorporate people. And like, we always put a funny twist on this year was detective, but instead of like a Sherlock Holmes detective skit, it was Goldy lost his remote, which really is Goldy's character because he's just kind of a little fun. He's kind of a kid at heart. So, but then all of winter break, mascots, we don't really have, college mascots don't really have a winter break. We go home for Christmas. Then almost the next day we're back on campus building our props, really testing it out, painting, screwing, just stapling, just duct tape, lots of duct tape, you know? So it's a lot of preparation. And then once you have that finished, somewhat finished, your props finished, then is the hardest time of selecting which performer will be the one down at the mat at nationals. And that's always really hard. And then once that happens, that performer is just constantly going through. You're always tweaking, making a prop a little bit easier to activate, or kind of switching around where the props are to make it flow better. So, I mean, definitely, I think the hardest part is that final little leg of perfecting that performance. And I mean, especially for the performer, it's a lot of pressure. Like once you're going down there, you're in front of your teammates, you're in front of your coach, and you're just performing. And like when you get into an audience, it kind of gives you a boost of energy. But when you're performing in front of your teammates, their sole job is to kind of nitpick. So like you go about like 5 times through, like you're dying, you're sweating, a lot of sweat and tears sometimes. But once you finally get down to the national floor, I think it's actually the easiest thing to do is perform the skit in front of a crowd, because a lot of the guys are entertainers. And after all those hours of working and everything, you're out there and then you just have fun, because the crowd doesn't know if you make a mistake or anything. And they just give you that little power that gives you that pizzazz. So yeah, that's kind of nationals in a nutshell. And then after that, that's like the only time mascots teams are kind of a little competitive. But other than that, we all love each other so much. Like we always, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? And like, that's the one thing that I love being part of the mascot community, because it's always, we try to build everybody up. And like Kussin steals a lot of things from Minnesota. It's fine, but I love them. But that's the great thing. We love each other. So Nationals is just a tiny little bit of competitiveness, but we're a big family, big furry family.
I will retweet that all day, Tom. This year at camp, my Pete's did a great job, and the outpouring of just from a lot of you people sitting here, just reaching out to me saying how great they were, and it meant a lot. And I know it really meant a lot to those guys too. So I 100% agree with you on that. Now, Kirby, how many have you been at Delaware now? How long have you been?
I've been there for 3 nationals, going on my 4th year.
Okay. So again, cheerleading background from a program that does not have a mascot, and you clearly didn't reach out to Julie for any advice, because her advice would have been get rid of mascots. That would have been her advice. And so Youdee has a tradition of doing very well at nationals in the open division. Has won multiple times. And if they don't win, they're definitely top 2 or 3 always. And so kind of talk about your learning of creating or helping with a mascot routine.
Yeah, I mean, my first year was definitely intimidating, knowing that Youdee was so well known in the open mascot division. So it was a lot of just learning as I went, learning from the returners on the team, but also trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, bring in a couple old mascot performers from the team. And then I've also reached out to Ray, reached out to Tom a couple weeks back just for different things. So I can definitely say, just like what you guys were saying, all of the mascot teams are always wanting to help each other. It's competitive for one day at nationals, but the rest of the time we're all cheering each other on. So it's been very different, but it's cool. Just like what Tom was saying, at nationals, it's funny because I don't think people realize how much goes into mascot nationals. So cheer will be on a break. We'll use their space to practice, and it'll look like fun, but myself and our other performers are standing there, watching every little thing or trying to count with the performer and doing all of that different stuff, when most people just see the end result that it's a lot of fun. So it's definitely been different in that we have a lot of video recording as well. We have a member on our team who he's very proud that he has over 2,000 photos and videos of Youdee. But it works out really well for us, so we can look at a lot of that stuff. I think the video part of Nationals is super fun when you get to the end of it, but during it, you're watching the same clip for like, okay, take it from 1.5 seconds to 1.75 seconds, or, oh, clip that part out. You find your mascot's best angles, and you find, when our new spirit coordinator came in, I said, well, just look for the people that are always recording Youdee and Baby Blue, and you'll see who is on the mascot team. You've got, everyone's always doing this. I learned very quickly that you turn your phone to the side so you can get the best videos. Just a lot of different things, a lot of little things that you would never know unless you're on that side of the mascot world. So it's been really cool in that sense too. We've got to do like some different stunts with the cheerleaders, and I can kind of orchestrate it a little bit easier, I think, than if it was someone different with cheer and someone different than mascot, and try to help our mascots know how to hold their weight in stunts and whatnot.
I was wondering about that because I mean, obviously putting together a mascot routine is nothing like putting together a cheer routine. There's nothing like, it's so different, but yet I'm sure so fun and rewarding. But what people don't understand is just the athleticism you need to have, and the mental toughness you need to have to put together these types of routines and remember everything, to hit all the cues, and to be the creativity behind it, to be entertaining. It's absolutely that is something that people don't realize that goes into Mascot National. But like Tom said, it's such a small part of what they do, but yet so much work goes into it. But the love that these people have of putting on the entertainment and the show that they're supposed to do is awesome. And it's something that, people, I hope they do appreciate, what these mascots do for everybody out there in terms of the game day and events and everything, because it does mean a lot to them. I know it does. But we have about 10 minutes here, 10, 15 minutes, and we have some really good questions from people. So I'm going to pick some questions here and just pick one of you to answer. Or if you really like it and you want to answer it, just raise your hand and I'm happy to give it to you. This is a good question from Brett. What is the best way to expand a program and develop further if you are at a school that does not have a mascot coach? So maybe a school that doesn't have somebody that's in charge of the mascot, or the mascots maybe under the spirit program, but there's not really a full-time coach to help with that. Anybody want to go ahead and take that one or give your advice on that one? Don't jump at once. Ray.
Sure, I'll say.
Yep.
Yeah. So I actually came in during a time where we didn't have a specific mascot coach per se, right? And so being a part of the program, you kind of, you're responsible as a student, as a college student, to basically make sure that we're fulfilling all the commitments that Brutus has. For us, that's hundreds of appearances each year. That's making sure that our suits are being maintained, that we have everything we need. That's managing all the different aspects of the program. And the weird thing about it is, for as much as a mascot does, no one really takes the time to think about it until someone actually says something, right? You're used to seeing Brutus at a football game or Brutus at a basketball game. He's like, oh yeah, it's Brutus. Good. He's here. Fantastic. And that's that. No one really thinks about, all of the stuff that I had mentioned before. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is that, until you bring attention to it, there's no reason for them to think about it. Right. Again, it's just about the image of that institution being there, being visible, and doing a good job for them, right? And so for us, one of the big things that helped us get someone to be in charge of it is to bring attention to all of the different things that go into the program. I have to give a shout out to my senior team before we had a mascot coach, just because we did that. We took the time. We decided that final year that, hey, there's a lot here that we need to do. If anything, we just need to get it all on paper, just so that next year we have something to go by and remember, so we're not constantly playing catch up. And we brought that to our coach's attention. And next thing you know, coaches at times like, wow, there's a lot here. We may need to consider, taking this to our ADs, seeing if this is a position that can be fulfilled. And sure enough, there you go. So the takeaway there is you can't expect the institution to just know what it is that you need, right? You have to take the time to kind of document it out, understand what exactly you absolutely need versus want, and then you have to pitch it to them professionally. You have to go to them correct and say like, hey, this is what we're seeing. This is why we need what we need. Is there any way that we can dedicate someone towards that? And then you run with it from there. That's the other big piece. You can't just let it fall by the wayside, right? A lot of times it takes multiple years, and depending on, the makeup of your different institutions, who's in charge, it may take more convincing for them than for others. But you got to be persistent and really just carry it home. We've been approached by multiple programs in different, times over the years where they said, hey, we're trying to start something up. Can you take a 30-minute call and answer some questions for us? I guarantee you, not to just throw everybody out here, but like everyone on this call would take that call and talk to you about, some of the things that we do, some ways that you can get your program off and running. And with the mascots, the more the merrier. We love mascots. So if we can help, we want to do that. But that's I guess my 2 cents on that. So
really good question from Alex here. Any advice for seniors who may not get their last season of mascotting? Now, obviously that's a worst case scenario is maybe there's nobody on any sideline for any football game. We just don't know. But I also think that this kind of opens up the question. The cool thing about collegiate mascots is, there's a lot of pro mascots, and looking to go pro or looking to go into a professional setting is something that is realistic for mascots. And some of them make very good money and make a very good living doing it for many, many years out of college. And, so anybody want to chime in terms of, first of all, with Alex's question in regards to, last season, kind of plans for your seniors if you need to, but then also kind of, maybe just some quick advice on what people can do if they do aspire to maybe be a pro mascot someday. Michael?
Yes, I'll touch on the senior season first and then jump into the pro stuff. But for your senior season, whether or not your senior season is full of sports or just nothingness, you make it the best that it is. When you're a mascot, you'll figure it out. You'll figure out a way to have fun, and you'll figure out a way to bring your community together and entertain people, because at the root of it, that's what a mascot is. So just because you don't have events doesn't mean that you can't be having a blast. Maybe start a social media for your mascot if they don't have one yet, and just find different ways to get creative and still have that love for your character. Because obviously, if you signed up to sweat for multiple hours a day, you probably want to do this. So find a good way to just entertain yourself and your community with that. And then moving into the pro stuff, having less stuff on your senior season is huge if you want to go pro, because you can now get all of that stuff ready and have that in a portfolio basically ready to ship off as soon as jobs come available. So you're going to need to put together a personal highlight reel, which is kind of like what Ray was talking about earlier with putting together our Nationals entry tapes. Your personal highlight reel has to show people why you are the best. Why should we pick you to fulfill our character? So you want to show all of your clever skits, your clever props. If you've done multiple characters, you want to put all of that stuff in there so that you can show that you're able to diversify and pick up different characters and not just show one type of mascot, show all of the characters and everything, and just use all of that time to go back through footage. I mean, if you've been filming for any purpose, I'm sure you have countless hours of footage. Even just in one season, I know we have days worth of footage that we can comb through. And so finding the shots that are you, finding the shots that look good, and then editing that into a shorter video. You don't have to use that 2-minute cap anymore, but I wouldn't put together a feature film to send out to teams, but get your highlight reel ready and then work on your resume, where it's exactly the same as a resume that you would put into a job. It's just your experience might look a little bit different. And even if you're not trying to go pro, I recommend put mascot on your resume, because I guarantee you will talk about that at every single interview you have. But especially if you're going to be a pro mascot, highlight the stuff you were good at. If you took over your character's social media, put that on there, because that's a huge thing that pro teams are looking for. If you were really good at scheduling appearances, put that on there. Just all these different small skills that you can highlight and think creatively. Why did your job making burritos at Chipotle lead you to be a better pro mascot? It's because you were able to interact with people. Just throw out different stuff, get creative with it, and make all of your experience relevant to that. And that way, once jobs get posted, look on teamworkonline.com every single day. And once a job gets posted, you'll have that ready to send out immediately, because every single one of these jobs is getting hundreds of applications. So you need to find some way to stick out from those. So you want to be the first one in the door. You want to call up all of your connections. I'm sure everyone on this call probably has a huge amount of connections all across the nation when it comes to pro mascots or people that know pro mascots, and just find a way to get your resume on the next desk. And you just want to stand out from everybody. And if you have a full year to work on that, where you don't have to focus as much on the how am I building props, how am I building skits, how am I building videos and whatnot, then you can focus a little bit more on yourself and get yourself ready for that next step.
Very good explanation. And like with today's technology and everything, like if you first of all, if you do aspire to be a pro mascot, I mean, it's never too early to start getting the footage ready, just getting everything ready. It's always better to have too much footage than not enough. Absolutely, 100%. Really good question here from Ryan from Delaware, actually. A great question. What are some ways you'd like to see the college mascot industry develop in the coming years? I think that's an excellent question. We'd love to have a couple of you chime in on that. Timmy Thiel, I'll have you take that one first. What are some things that you hope to see in the next few years in regards to just, the development of college mascots in our industry?
Yeah, I mean, you can already see changes already in social media. I mean, that's put a huge difference on what our teams do, their involvement in the community. You think back, 10, 15 years ago, Facebook didn't exist, YouTube didn't exist. So all these things are evolving and constantly evolving. TikTok is just blown up in a huge way this year. So, we as programs, we need to be in front of it and evolve with these things as they come and as they change. So, moving forward from that, we need to develop our athletes more to handle this. This is, going back to what Ray is talking and why we're all on this call is because, programs that don't have this leadership in place, that they don't have the hunger or the insight to these changes, they're going to be left in the dust. So I think something that all of us would like to see is more leadership and more investment into these programs. And so it's not just social media. When we talk about development, we're talking about developing these young athletes and individuals beyond being student athletes. Investing in their academics. I think most of us on this team have athletes who excel academically and impressively. I think it blows a lot of our minds at how well these student athletes are successful in the classroom, as well as what they do, the countless events that they are in, and beyond being just a mascot, they're in countless organizations too. So it's helping guide these individuals into the future. And so we're developing them to be more than mascots, more than student athletes. We're developing them to be, great leaders, people that are, going to walk across the stage and take over tomorrow in whatever field they choose to study in. So putting more investment in that. And, we could go down another road too, but probably don't have time. But part of that development and investment is scholarship that none of our programs have enough of. And so that's something in a big way I think all of us would like to see this change and develop is to see more financial benefit going to these student athletes who are working their tails off.
Kirby, I mean, for you and looking at the Youdee program, what are some things that you hope possibly you can develop or things that could change here in the next few years with your program?
In my second year with the mascot team, it was really cool. We had a large array of talent within the team. And I don't mean in suit, but also just with what people could do within the team. We had someone who was really skilled in making videos and mixing music. And then we had someone else who was really skilled with props and kind of knew their way around a Lowe's or Home Depot. And I think that's where Mascot Nationals and mascot competition can really help. Just like Tim was saying, build those leaders, have them find something that can help them after college or even into professional mascotting. You need something more than just, I did really well in a suit. You want to be able to engage well. You want to be able to do things for yourself or do things that the university might not support yet so that they can see why they should. So just like Tim was saying, I think more scholarship and more investment in mascot programs would be great just so that universities can see exactly everything that they do. I think sometimes people don't realize just exactly how much goes into it.
And Tom, anything you want to add to, in terms of what you foresee in the mascot programs, across the country in the next few years, or what you hope to see?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I've seen change from kind of starting out to being a first year or going into my second year coaching now is just how the mascot community is becoming. We're becoming more professional. When I kind of first joined the team and everything, mascots are kind of the really funny people that didn't take anything too seriously. They were just kind of like, oh, that's just like a mascot thing to do. But one thing I really want to see it changing is a lot of athletics and a lot of other kind of everybody seeing us more professional. And everybody was kind of touching on it, how a lot of these people are going. A lot of our athletes are wanting to go into the professional world. And it's better for all programs if we are seen as professional, that we do make a difference, that we do take what we're doing seriously. And also just another thing is just more interaction within the mascot community. A lot like Big Ten, we're really, really close. And just trying to make more of a network of collegiate mascots, how either a forum or something, just kind of having everybody build kind of there's UCA, there's UDA, possibly something for mascots that we can all go to. And so those are some of the things that I'm kind of looking forward to, hoping to see in the future.
This is from Brittany, and this is just quick. I know Colorado, you won back-to-back titles, 09 and 10. Who else has won back-to-back national championships for college? Yeah, but I know Youdee has.
Youdee has, Goldy has.
Okay.
That was 17-18, so the select few.
Brittany was just curious. I knew it's hard. It's hard to win 2 in a row. Absolutely. It's very hard to, as they say, it's hard to get to the top, but it's even harder to stay there. This is from Eric Holler. Just so you guys know, if arm wrestling were a category, Pete would be a dynasty. Just, it hurts sometimes, but that's okay.
Pretty buff.
Oh my God.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
You guys are nuts.
Oh no.
If you're gonna do one, you might as well go for it. Am I right, Tom?
Oh man.
Always stealing my jokes.
Love it. Okay, real quick. What's the most push-ups you've ever done in a game? Who thinks they have the most? Ooh. Okay. How many have you done, Timmy?
270.
No way.
Yeah.
Wait. Remember, what do we count as a real push-up?
270.
Oh, it got real quiet. It got real quiet.
Wisconsin versus Bowling Green here in Ohio at Cleveland Brown Stadium.
Wow. And that's an away games. There's only, well, there is only
Just one Bucky, always
Bucky.
one Bucky, but
Yeah.
I happened to witness that one Bucky do
Yes.
20 push-ups.
Wow. Do you guys beat that? Anybody beat that? No.
I guess with real push-ups,
You're the
maybe.
winner. Timmy,
We don't
you're
even
the
do
winner.
push-ups.
He did legit push-ups, but I mean, it's fun.
And then one final question from Grant, which is, I mean, it's another good question, just for people out there that maybe run. How do you find people to be mascot support? I do everything for my program. So yeah, I get it. Yeah. I mean, if you're the only full-time coach, I mean, and you don't have help, you can't film and run the game, and maybe you're in charge of cheerleaders or dance also, and you're just, it's hard to get that footage. I get that. Any maybe tips or suggestions on how you could get extra help for your mascot programs? Anybody have anything?
I got one. Just ask people straight up. Just like go up to somebody and ask them. I know Penn State Nittany Lion, he put together a second place video by just asking people that were near him when he was about to do something. And I can guarantee you, if you go out on campus or if you have a friend that you think would help with anything, like, I guess I don't know what it's going to look like for this coming season, but access passes are free to print out for every game. So I'm sure that you will be able to find someone who's willing to stand on the sideline and help your mascot with whatever they need, whether that's filming or refilling a water bottle or what have it. It's easy to use those free perks as huge benefits for people.
I agree. I mean, people just usually either people love or hate mascots. It's one or the other. And when they love them, they will do anything to help them, I think also. I totally agree with that. But yeah, 100% agree. Anybody else have anything about any other tips or ideas of mascot help?
Use your cheerleaders. I put them to work when I'm working with both of them. So they'll be usually happy to do it, happy to help out however they can, and they can usually communicate with them well too. We've also had a couple of people that are interested in being a part of the mascot program that might not fit the certain bill that we're looking for. So they'll be fantastic to help at different events, especially if people aren't available or solely to record.
Tom, did you have something? I thought you maybe were going to jump in there.
Well, we don't have that here at Minnesota, but Auburn, they have a whole club devoted to kind of helping Obby. So, I mean, I can't really say much on it, but maybe possibly reach out to Auburn and ask on that, because they have a whole club that actually even come to them to nationals to help out. So they have a really well-established one. So that'd be a lead I'd follow. Actually,
Kind of going off of that, Tom, because we talk about that a lot at Delaware. And you guys have probably thought about this before too, but again, pre-COVID, we were thinking about trying to partner somewhat with our theater department and props, just because they have more experience with building props, but then we could work with them on making them to fit our needs. So again, more of that community involvement within the university. So yeah.
Oh, Tim, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it kind of goes back to what Ray was talking about with developing a coach for the program. You need to, work with the leadership, your spirit squad coordinator, or if you're under alumni, your director, whatever it may be. And you kind of need to dial in what the needs you have are for the program and state your case, build that case out, and really help them understand why you need that support. So it's something too you may need to be persistent with, but over time, they get and they understand, and if they don't, show them firsthand. If they don't understand what it's like for you to go to an event and go through the elements that you are put through, you need to show that to them so they understand. So, it goes beyond that too, because it goes up the chain to support. So Ray and I, we take it, to our directors at OSU and show them, help them understand. And that's how we get things done. So you kind of have to take that ownership and make it happen.
Well, everybody, it's been an hour and 15 minutes. And I just want to say, man, this was so much fun. We will definitely do another mascot edition, because I know there'll be things that we would all love to talk about more. And as the summer goes on and as the school year starts, we'll have a better idea of what that means for all of our programs. And I'm sure that'll be a great topic and conversation. And really, like you guys talked about, just best practices. What is everybody doing? What can we do to help each other? What ideas are out there? What other ideas can we steal from Minnesota? I mean, I'm fine with that. We'll do what we got to do. I mean, clearly Michael has no shame on that. So,
Most sincere form of flattery.
Yes, absolutely it is. Absolutely. But I just want to thank you all again for coming on, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will do this soon, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you so
everyone.
much for putting this together.
Well, as you can see, that was our Coach's Corner mascot episode, and it did not disappoint. So many awesome, funny comments coming in through. A lot of former mascots from different programs that chimed in, which was so much fun, and that was just awesome to see. So I can't thank you all enough. We had some great feedback. Just real quick, if you are enjoying the show, please follow us on social media. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow us at Full Out Chats on Instagram, where we have our live interview chats, where I have interviewed Ray. Ray's is awesome. It's here on YouTube now if you'd like to see it. You can also listen to this. You can listen to it. They're all turned into podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, and we are on Spotify and iHeartRadio now. Also, we are on Facebook and Twitter. But again, please follow us on social media and help us out. And, this has been a fun project because you get to talk with great people in our industry, and also just kind of get a point of view of things that you just don't realize goes into it. It really is a lot of hard work, not just for the coaches, but the athletes. I mean, these kids are great kids that put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into what they do, no matter what it is. And it's a really great time and fun to be a part of that. Speaking of Full Out Chats, we are back tomorrow on Instagram, where I will be interviewing Caitlin Sexton, V-Rock, and UCA college staffer, was on the U.S. all-girl cheer team, and is a Hofstra University alum, multiple national championships at Hofstra University. Caitlin Sexton, cannot wait to talk with her tomorrow at 1:00 Eastern on our Instagram, Full Out Chats. So again, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. It was a ton of fun. We will do this again next week. Don't know what it's going to be about yet, but we'll figure that out. But as always, stay healthy, stay safe, everybody, and I will see you again next week.